Great, I'm back. And I might have found the reason for that transparency thing in the shaders. And if it's as annoying as I think it is, then I don't know if I feel like fixing it. I just want to check that this is actually working on YouTube because I'd never done that before. And this one still says housekeeping. Cool. Anyway, that's running. So I have a few options with what I can do today. Basically, I can render strokes. What I might want to do is find a way to render fills. Yeah, that looks like it's working. I might want to try to render fills. Or I could try to make this so that it actually animates, because right now it can't animate things. If I were to do something... Oh, this has to load. If I were to do something like... animate shift right, this won't work. Well, it'll do this. It won't show the frames iteratively for a few reasons. One, because I'm not clearing the screen, and then also because I'm not yielding from the main thread. I think first I'll try to get fills working. I think that's what I'll do. Uh-oh, did I mess up my placement of this stuff? Okay, I think I fixed it. Anyway, if I were to go to here and just render a circle, like so, just add that. Oh, there's no fill anyway. Yeah, I'd want to do something like this. Okay. Let me just edit that here. So I get a circle, I'll do fill opacity equals half. And when I reload that, that should be updated. When I render it, it still won't do anything. And that's because here, you're not actually rendering that. Yeah. Okay. So, time to render it. I'll do fill before the stroke so that if there ever does end up being a question of ordering, the stroke will come on top, which will look a little nicer. Texture coordinates, texture mode. Even that, well... Yeah, I guess it's fine to leave all of this. Then let me come over here, see what I did. Basically, instead of instantiating the shader, I did some JS stuff. So I'll just do the exact same thing, more or less. I want to do something like this. I'm basically going to end up passing this some data one-to-one. Now, this isn't going to work. And part of why this isn't going to work is because this requires triangulating. And triangulating is going to require some non-Python code. Here, I just call this attributes. Okay, replace that. Got the model view matrix, the projection matrix, those are both the same. I'll probably still want to format those. So let's bring this back here. This will be formatted model view matrix. Like so, and the projection matrix, same thing. Yeah. Great. Then I won't have to pass the unit normal for this. And the attributes are just invert and color, texture chords, texture mode. Invert and color. This and that. Okay, I don't think I have to do anything fancy like this. I can just take the vertices directly, the colors directly, and so on. Great, so I'll run this, it won't work. And then I'll probably have to port over something for triangulation. Okay. And I should just make it so I don't have to keep clicking this button. I should just automatically call this render function. Like here, this should load it, and then once it's loaded, just call render. Maybe that'll work. Even though it's down here, I don't know if the closure works like that. Yeah, something with this triangulation isn't working. Looks like the automatic rendering worked. Inner tri indices equals ear clip triangulation, which wouldn't work. And it says I can't call a JS proxy. Interesting. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm gonna move these down near the rendering code. So ear cut is here, and if it's doing like ear clip triangulation, importing that from ear cut, then that won't exist at the time. So let me check where this is. Space Ops 752. Okay, and so here's ear cut. It's importing. Okay, so from Mapbox ear cut, it's wanting to import triangulate flow 32. All right. Now it's importing this ear cut, which is just an empty object. And what it needs is triangulate flow 32. Alright. I think there's a JavaScript ear cut library. And I don't know if this has triangulate float 32 or just has triangulate as ear cut here. Vertices holes. Yeah, I think this doesn't have to deal with holes. What's taking these? Oh, this was 3D coordinates. Wait, can you make it do with 2D coordinates? Get correct triangulation on very bad data, lots of self-intersections, and ear cut is not precise. Look at lib tests. I think I need to do that right now. Vertices of flat array of vertex-like coordinates. Oh, you can pass dimensions equals 2. Okay, so I'll just try installing this. Okay, I guess I already added it. And what Python is going to do is this does from mapbox ear cut import triangulate float 32 as ear cut. I'm gonna say from JS import I guess I just put ear cut. Import ear cut as ear cut, something like that. Let's see if I go. Guess I didn't import it here. Let's import from ear cut. So now there's an ear cut globally. Then maybe I just don't need this. Or I'll comment it. Now it's going to import ear cut, which should import the ear cut library. And then what it needs to call is this ear cut. And it needs to do 2-dimensional. So it just needs to pass the list of coordinates. And I think that's it. This is passing a length. Oh, this will probably have to be raveled or something. So there is that. I don't know if I can just call a JavaScript function on Python data like this. I feel like that's kind of janky. And this length of indices. Guess it doesn't need that by default. Reverts indexed at indices. I'll just see what this does. Pretty sure this will break. I'm like 90% certain this will break actually, but actually I'm gonna print this as well. Since I know the JavaScript library is supposed to take a flat array, I'm pretty sure this won't be a flat array, but let's see. Can I import name ear cut from JS? Okay. Oh, I guess because I didn't add it to the global this. Like global this dot earcut equals earcut. I don't know if this is loading again since I had a bug before. Attribute error? So got here. Render object fills with matrix. Render vectorized object fill. I guess the last place it got is vectorized object rendering line 98. Here. Oh, interesting. I thought it would have crashed earlier than that. I'm still pretty sure it's wrong. It's doing something wrong. Yeah, because I didn't even pass a flat array here. Yeah, I feel like it's dangerous to just assume that was doing the right thing without checking it. Why don't I print the triangulation it comes up with? Since this gives back a triangulation. Wait, what is this returning? 304540. I guess these are the indices. Zero, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so it's returning the list of indices. So I'm gonna print that from Python. And see what it gives. I'll just see what that printed, and it didn't print anything. Don't see why it didn't print anything. Okay, I see it's crashing because it's trying to call a function that I never wrote. I think I should have printed this. Let me see if I can do it in a more obnoxious way. And see if that appears. And if not, I'll probably have to just do what I should have done in the first place and just write a small function in JavaScript that does the triangulation. Yeah, it returned, I guess, nothing. Okay. Okay, so instead of doing that, let's do this the right way. So it's gonna do from JS import earcut. It's gonna import triangulate float 32 as earcut. Just call this mapbox ear cut. From JS dot mapbox ear cut import ear cut. Yeah, and I think that's it. Okay, now js.mapbox ear cut will be this. And from that, it's importing ear cut. Here, I'll put in vertices and I'll just console log it. And then once I have those, I'll be able to see how to handle it in JavaScript. Okay, so that's worked. I gotta do a little bit more work to actually triangulate it. So here, I'm scripting. So I don't think I need this length at all. I'm gonna do this, vertices indexed at indices, and I'll do dot ravel. Then in JavaScript, I'll do 2JS here. Solo dead. What's up? I'm doing some porting Manum into JavaScript here, slowly. Thanks. Did you, out of curiosity, where did you find this channel? One zero. Okay, so this is what I expect. Raid last night. Oh yeah, I remembered you. Well, I remember faces a lot better than names. But yeah, good times. So since this is already being passed as a flat array, and that's what this library is going to expect, and I don't think I need any holes. I think all I need to do is pass this to the earcut library. Although there are too many things named earcut here. So this is called mapbox earcut. I should just call this JS mapbox earcut or something like that. Like JS earcut, that's probably fine. Then they can call regular earcut once it's in JavaScript. Yeah. Save the triangulation. I'll try logging that triangulation. And then change up the imports from Python. So this will be JS earcut. Oh no, this can be regular earcut. I do from JS dot JS Mapbox earcut. Gonna import JS earcut as earcut. Then I'm gonna call earcut here. It'll be passed over to JavaScript here. And then that should triangulate it. Sounds like a plan. All right. Okay, looks like this worked. The length is a multiple of 3. The points should be 0 through... Well, actually, I don't know what the points should be 0 through. But 0 through 8 seems like a reasonable number, I guess. Let me see if I can get the pure Python answer. So I'm gonna modify this to print these indices like so, and just run basically the same thing. Circle with opacity is half. Okay, and that's what's already here. Okay, so this is the answer from Python. And this is the answer from JavaScript. Oh, it needs, I guess, commas, but I don't. I'll just leave it like that, and then I'll copy this. Okay, so we got 780, 012, 234, 456, 670, 024, 460. That's remarkably accurate. I had expected possibly that it triangulated in a different way, but it looks like the JavaScript and Python answers are 1-to-1. Nice. So, thanks. Okay. So now the question is, I can call this in JavaScript. Guess I have to return it? Although, where's the Python? Here. I'm not sure of the way that this data is proxied. So meta indices here, that's a JavaScript object. But I might have to do something to move it back into Python. Or I might not have to, but I'm not sure. Implicitly convert immutable types, but not mutable types. This ensures that mutable Python objects can be modified from JavaScript and vice versa. Mutable Python objects can be modified in JavaScript and vice versa. Well, lists are mutable, so it won't be implicitly converted. So something like 2pi is 2JS. I'm sure the function is just 2. Maybe it's like this. Okay, here's 2pi. Converts a JS proxy to a native Python object. And I think there's also one for the JavaScript side. Blake 4096, what's going on? We are trying to bring Manum to the web. This also converts a JavaScript object to a Python object as best as possible. So I can do it in JavaScript or Python. And I think what I want to do is just do it here. Hopefully. Okay, so I'll do that. Then we'll just print this in Python. That was not what I wanted to do. Recompile this. Okay, and now hopefully when I print that number in Python, it'll be normal in Python. And actually, it's just not there at all. So I guess that didn't do what I expected. Triangulation at 2pi is not a function. Hmm. Two pi. Oh, you pass the object. Wait, here I just did 2JS. Convert the JavaScript object to a Python object as best as possible. Maybe it's like... It says the object goes here, so maybe this is... How do I do run Python? Iodide? Maybe it's like that. I guess I'll just try running it again. I can't tell if it worked or not. I might have to reload this. Okay, I saw something print. Okay, great. So I printed that. And I printed it from Python. So that's perfect. That means at the point that it reaches here, it has the triangulation, which was done in JavaScript. And that data is now Python data again. Cool. So I'll just clean this up. Make it nice and hard to debug for my future self. So take vertices, 2JS, ear cut it, then convert it back to Python. Great. So now it's going to take all that data and it's going to call render vectorized object fill, which doesn't exist right now. It's going to be something like this. And right now I'll just log the attributes it passes along. And I guess do nothing. Okay. So hopefully this will at least not throw an error. Okay, great. And it didn't. It just created all these attributes. Now these Has the vertices colors. Okay. It's vertex data, color data. Wait, should these... Oh, these shouldn't necessarily be the same length. Since the vertices are... three-dimensional. Oh, these are two-dimensional. That's probably a problem. And these, I guess, are four-dimensional. RGBA. Yeah, that could be a problem. I probably need three-dimensional data there. If I look at the example, where you rendered the fill, here, let's see. Yeah, these positions were three-dimensional. Is that okay? It should be returning... Let's see, it gets these meta indices and it indexes into the indices array? Okay. Because we're returning a list of indices. I think I just have to append... Oh, this is a list of indices. I think I just have to append zeros to it. And just to double check that, I'm gonna print this in regular Python. Or at least I would if I was good at programming. Okay, so wait. Okay, there's the object fill. Gonna get down here. I'll just print the attributes. Okay. And that's a bit too much. Let's print like the first 12. Okay, yeah, this is three-dimensional data. 100, 4.140. That's also different. Oh no, it's not. 100, 0.4140, 0.70, 0.700, 0.70, 0.770 again. Okay, so this is doing the right thing. Great. Okay. Okay, let me take that printout. Come back here. And now I'm gonna need create fill mesh. So let's create stroke mesh. A lot of this is gonna be the same. Okay, so I have this data again. And now these attributes and uniforms. Okay, there's not a ton of them. Okay, if I'm lucky, this will go through without a hitch. Let me see what I named these. I called this in color and it worked. But I've been having some problems with the color names a bit lately. But, okay. Over here, and I'll just add these attributes in one by one. So geometry set attribute. You have invert in color, texture chords, and texture mode. And invert has to be position. That's just a quirk of 3JS. In color should probably be color as well. I don't know why that makes a difference, but it does. So I'm gonna change that now, actually. Okay, so that's a very small difference. Then here, where I passed in color, I'll pass regular color instead. That should, it shouldn't break this where I rendered the fill. Okay, so I can still render a fill. But this one isn't being read from Anim. So that's great. I do need to... I have to update this, that it receives the scene camera and renderer. Because I actually should have been doing that from the beginning. Yeah, I'm doing it this way. Okay, and I guess that still works. This is an example fill. Great. So now, back to what I was doing. To do position, color, texture chords, and texture mode. The invert. Oh, and let me comment this so that the example thing doesn't appear. Though I guess the stroke still appears. Okay, then in color. And that's 4-dimensional. Should be 4-dimensional. $135. Okay, so that's 136. Well, that's not a multiple of 3. Oh, it's 135 objects. Which, that is a multiple of 3. Great. Okay, and this looks like it's 4-dimensional as well. Okay, position, color, texture chords. I'll take straight from here. I think that's 2-dimensional. Zero, zero, half, 0, 1, 1. Yeah. So that's 2-dimensional. Texture mode is 1-dimensional. Mode 1-dimensional. Probably I would clone everything that I have, running it as the next step. What did you clone exactly? Running the changes that I made for like the tutorial stuff shouldn't be super hard. Running this web stuff would be incredibly hard. But I haven't pushed this yet. Okay, so that looks fine. And I'll put together the material. Basically like this. Okay, raw shader material. I think I might have just come up with a solution to a certain bug that I encountered earlier. But anyway, uniforms, material. This is pretty much the exact same thing. If I look at the fragment shader, V color, wait. Vertex shader, the uniforms, it's just U model view matrix and U projection matrix. I don't need the unit normal. This is already passing U model view matrix and U projection matrix, so I think that's fine. So then give it this shader, double side transparent, return that. Okay. So now, when I render vectorized object fill, I basically want to do this. This will be fill. Okay. All right, we got an error. Create fill mesh is not defined. All right, let's do those. Now let's see if this works. Well, I see the fill here. Now I'm wondering why the stroke isn't there. Unless the fill covered it? Something like that? Well... Hold on. If I comment out the stroke rendering... Well, that's what I expect, just the fill. If I comment out the fill rendering... I think I have to rerun this. Then I think I'll see just the stroke. Wait, why is this appearing? Did I name this the wrong thing or something? Create fill mesh. I'm not sure where that fill is coming from. How about this too? Okay, so now nothing appears. Wait, uncomment that. I get the fill. Uncomment that. I also get the fill. Why? Fill vert, stroke vert. Okay, not sure why that's happening. Let me try to just render the stroke again. So it starts out as rendering nothing. Okay, then it's rendering the fill. And why is that happening? I commented this out. Let's see. Renders the fill, then it renders the stroke. When I render OpenGL object fill, vectorize object fill, it's going to come down here and do this, render vectorize object fill. As opposed to render vectorize object stroke. It's weird that the fill is being rendered at all here. What if I just comment this? Okay, so I comment this entirely, and then I see the stroke. Kind of surprised it didn't crash. If I comment this entirely, I guess I see the fill. So maybe it's that these are... Maybe the opacities are tricking me? Because the opacities are always one, and the stroke and the fill color, I think, are the same. So make this blue. Okay, now I can see it. Okay, great, so it worked. Basically. Let's get this circle and do stroke color equals blue, fill color equals red. I can do the fill opacity if I want, and then okay, great. So I can render that now straight from Manum. Okay, let me get rid of that print in Python. That I can't find. Wait, is it in Python? Where's this print coming from? It's somewhere in Python. Or maybe it's just because I haven't recompiled it? Stop.eat dinner and check out the channel. Have to get going. I hope to be back and check out more of your progress. Sounds good. Thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Okay, so this worked. This did exactly what I want. Great. Cool. So that's already a lot of progress. What would be really nice to do is make this so that I can actually animate things. So right now... Alright, see you around. If I were to shift this, this would not animate. It'll do that. I should probably actually... I probably should commit some of this. So I haven't done that in a while. is in public iodide? It's probably important. SRC components, terminal. I guess SRC everything. Well, not shaders. Okay, SRC components terminal. SRC manum scene, object rendering, shaders, scenes, shader source. Okay, I think that's everything. Don't want to add no modules. Don't think I want to add this yet. Okay. Do commit yarn lock? Yes. Okay. Rendering strokes and fills from Atom. Okay. That's a lot of progress. It'd be super, super cool to make this so that it animates, but it's gonna require restructuring a fair amount of the Python code. Let me look at the logic this is using to render right now. So I'm getting this scene and I'm just calling scene.render. What I guess I'd want to do is get the scene, call like scene.init or something like that, and then scene.draw. Let me see what happens when I even call render. Scene.py. Let's go here. So render commands here. Okay, so this is where I call render. Oh, this already has a setup. What does self.setup do? Oh, it just isn't used. Interesting. I guess since I don't know how it's used, it might be best just to write my own thing. Although all the scenes that overwrite this are probably just going to be thrown out. What is that? Oh. Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and add a setup function here. No, I didn't do anything fancy. I just want to know that that's being called. Okay. Okay, great. So it's calling the setup function. So now that just runs construct and then tear down. That's pretty straightforward. What I'm gonna have to do is something like this. Self dot like. No, I don't want this to be here at all. I don't want to do that edit. I want to create the scene, call scene.setup. And I have to call the draw function or whatever from JavaScript. Yeah. Which means in particular, I'll have to figure out how to call any animation function from JavaScript. So let me do this. Let me just get a really basic example. Like this. Actually, I'm trying to figure out where I should get that mesh, get a mesh from. I'll just make one up like this. Geometry material cube, okay. So this is like getting the scene. And this is doing the setup. Set up the scene. Which in this case is just adding this cube. And then we're gonna do update the scene. And this updating, I have to do something like this. Define an animate function that calls itself. Let me see if this even works. Okay, don't know why that would fail. Let's try that again. Okay, let's see. Scene.py and remove. Scene.py and add. Oh, I overwrote the variable scene. Like the manum scene. And this scene, this is the 3JS scene. I have to do manum scene.setup. Okay. Let's now move that to the bottom. Great. So why is this so big? Isn't this normally 1 by 1? Maybe it's really close or something? But anyway. Let me scale this down. Where's regular geometry? Should be able to go here. Does this have like dot scale? Yeah. Whoops. Okay, then I'll shift that over. Can I do this? 200? Guess not. Got rotate, scale, translate. I didn't mean it for it to be way over there. Well, I guess the rotation is doing that. Okay, I'll just leave that where it is. Fine. I do manum scene.setup. I want this to add in some objects. So let's do self.circle. Circle. I'll just have that be an OpenGL circle. That's fine, and I'll add self.add, self.circle. So that's part of the scene now. Then I don't want construct here. I have something like draw. What I want to do and draw. It's self.circle dot shift. I'll put 0.100. And why is this not highlighting as a string? There we go. Okay, so setup should add this to the scene, then draw should just shift it. Alright, now draw is never being called. Okay, but setup is being called. Add the cube. Okay, so what I think I want to do here... Well, this has a handle to the manum object. Doesn't have a handle to the mesh. I guess that's fine. But what this is going to have to do in manum world... It's manum scene.draw. It's going to update that circle. And then it's going to have to, like, draw that frame. Essentially. Get manum to, like, draw that. Well, not... Well, here, I'll just do this for now. Okay, that's doing what I expect. Yeah. I just need the way to get manum to render that scene into JavaScript. So when I do play, it's self.render.play. That eventually calls play internal. Let's My internal is here. Basically does update to time and self.render.render. Update to time I think is taken care of by draw, so it's just self.render.render, I think. This takes a scene. Man, these arguments are sort of weird. So what'll this do? It'll call update frame, which I don't think does anything. Oh, update frame actually draws the mobjects. Okay. And that's all it does. Update frame, essentially. Okay. So let's have this draw. Then do this. Mancy.render. Wait, why does it need the scene? It's going to pass the scene itself, T. Moving objects is stupid. I don't need that. I don't even think T is used. So it just needs the scene. .render or .render. So it's going to need the scene. And that's all? Because that's used in update frame. Everything else isn't used. Okay, so I guess we'll pass none and none. Well, something crashed. Object is an attribute. Animation start time. Update frame. Self.animation at last time equals time.time minus whatever. Okay. Is setup and draw the same name as the P5JS functions? It is. That's convenient. Okay, so there's some animation start time that's being used within update frame. So we have update frame here. Oh, how's this? This isn't used here. Yeah, this isn't used in scripting. So I guess I'll just rip it out like this. Eventually I'll probably just want to factor these out into new data structures, but for now this is fine. Okay. And I'll have to recompile that. Close. It's doing a lot of what I want. That's too slow. Okay, anyway. I'll have to clear the screen. But I don't want to clear everything from the screen. I basically only want to clear mana meshes from the screen after each frame. There'll eventually have to be a better way to do this. I shouldn't have to remove all of them. It should just be a matter of updating that data. But for now, I'll just clear the scene. This has children or something? No, I guess not. Oh, object 3D. This has children. So we do scene.children equals nothing. Render.render. It should happen here. So you have to do scene.addCube. Well, I have to add all of the meshes that correspond to manum objects. And how do I do that? That might not even be something I want to do, since in the long term I'm going to want to update it, not remove them all and then add them all. So let me see if there's a better way to do this. So this is adding the cube here. Maybe when I do manum scene.setup, I can add things to the scene? I'm going to call setup here. I think when this calls setup, I'll have to add things to the scene. Pretty sure that'll have to happen. Or should that be done in Python or in JavaScript? Probably JavaScript. But I think it'll have to go through Python no matter what. So setup here. Should have if sys.platform is and scripted. Then do what? It's gonna have to add meshes to the scene, something like that. So I might have to return all the meshes or something like that. Or like render everything once, and when I render it, I'll create those meshes. Maybe something like that. Should be render each mesh. And to make sure there's not a cleaner way to do this that I'm missing. Aquabeam, what's going on? I think I made some pretty decent progress here. currently am just coming up with the interface between Python and JavaScript. What I think I need to do is at least render each mesh which is added to the scene. So this will be like for mob and self.mobjects. Render that one. Self.render.render mobject. Mob. And then in the setup function, oh wait. Should be Pyodide's job. Partially. Part of it is that the way that Manum works right now isn't compatible with the way that animation is done online. So what I have here is I retrofitted this scene with a setup function and a draw function. And that's because of the way that JavaScript handles animation. You can't really do something like do this, do that, like in that, animate that shift, whatever. You can't do things sequentially like this. You basically have to do things functionally, in a sense. In that you have to have a function like this and just call it over and over and over again. That's how you animate in JavaScript. And trying to fight against that paradigm leads to really annoying stuff. And that's what I tried to do during the first Euler Tour site. And you can sort of see this if you go to like P5, for example. And the way they do, well, this is kind of a complicated one. But the way they do this is in the same way. There's a setup function and there's a draw function. And they set things up cleverly so that when you call this over and over and again. So updater logic is going to take a hit. What do you mean by take a hit? It'll be that pretty much updater logic will be the primary way of animating. And non-updater logic will have to be like retrofitted. But we will find a way. I hope. Okay, so if this is, if all of the objects added, oh wait. Okay, here's what I have to do. I'm gonna call it setup internal. I like calling things internal. Okay, so this setup will be setup internal. And you'll call setup. That answers the question. Great. What would be a name for something that happens before something else? I guess I could just have pre. Does it have to have if? Sys.platform. It's not in scripting, I'll do this. Otherwise. Do self.setup, I guess. Pre whatever hook. That's an idea. Thinking about this more, I think I actually have to do this. Actually, I don't even think I need this function. This is like it's a relatively small bit of code. So I can do something like that, I think. Setup can be passed, this can be removed. Now, setup is actually called either way, so I can factor that out. Pre-commit, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so now it's going to do setup either way. Then if it is on WebGL, it's going to render each object in the scene. Great. And when you render these, then what? Don't call render here. I'm going to need something like a... Okay, there can be some potential problems with this. Then I'm going to do... manum object to mesh this new map. Okay. So manum is going to call setup. That's going to render each object. When it renders those objects, that's going to come to here and it's going to generate these meshes. Okay. Then I'm going to add these to the object to mesh map. It's the same object to mesh. That's set. Oh, but I need to have some sort of manum thing. I need to have something about the object that I can map to the mesh. Should probably just be the ID. Under object here. Here's the WebGL thing. Render WebGL object. This takes a object. Okay, so let me do render WebGL object. No, I can just do render object. Wait, this requires a renderer or something? I'll do render object. Render object will call wait, is render object ever called? I do update frame and that calls render WebGL object. And that does from object and scene.object. So maybe I just have to call update frame here. So I can do update frame. That'll call render WebGL object. Come to render WebGL object here. And here I can pass like ID. Object ID. Actually, I don't even have to do that. Render vectorized object fill and vectorized object stroke. I can go to one of these. Then when I render it, I can just pass the ID. Oh, but this is multiple objects. How annoying. For submob and mobjects. No, I think this is a single object. Oh no, wait. Oh yeah, this is multiple objects. That's annoying. Hmm. And what I need here is basically... Well, I guess that's actually still fine. Fine-ish. A single call to this takes multiple mobjects, so I can't map from like a single mobject to a mesh. But I can map from this list to a mesh. So maybe I just want to like do some hash of all of those IDs. Okay, so I gotta do sum of ID of mob for mob and objects. I'll just add those up. Assuming that's how you do that. Is that down there? What in the world? Okay. So that's for the fill. Here I'll do the same thing. Okay, now there's an ID mapping from that list of mobjects to a mesh. Okay, so I can do mobject.mesh.set, which I don't even know how to use these maps. Let's just do key comma value. That get at ID mesh. Do that here too. Okay. So now we call setup, we call update frame. When you update frame, that renders each mobject. When you render those mobjects, it's going to create a mesh and an ID and pass that to JavaScript. It's going to save them here. Now in the future, what it's going to have to do, I'll just create that mesh, I guess. We'll have to have like if. Is there like .has? Wait, what? Oh, yeah, okay. Object to mesh dot has should get of ID. Okay, then this mesh has already been rendered. I think I'm gonna actually create it no matter what, just because that's easier. Oh, maybe. Hold on. This will be the else. This is, you see, an ID that hasn't been seen before. You create it, add it, and add it to the scene. If it has been seen before, then what? I'd want to update it. But I don't want to do that right now, so... I'll just... let old mesh equals this. Okay, let's get the ID. This. Okay, get that ID. If that ID is already there. Get that old mesh. Remove it from the scene. Let me just do scene.remove. Yeah, dot remove. Then create. Then pretty much do the same thing. Okay, so if the mesh is already there, take it out of the scene, and I guess I'll take it out of the map. And then just pretend like it was never there. I'll have to do that here too. Just gonna use fill mesh here. Okay. Okay. So the removing and adding again is handled here in this rendering logic. And so now does it just work? I highly doubt it, but let's see. Okay. It kind of looks like it works. Sort of slow though. I guess I would expect this to be slow actually. Because, oh, that was faster. Because, I'm creating the mesh on each frame, which I don't have to do. Okay, so let's remove the cube stuff. Yeah, that was pretty good. Okay, so now I can do mana. So when you render, it'll run that code, create this example scene, set it up. Okay, remove some of that. Set it up. And then it'll call this over and over again. So if I comment this, for example. And, okay, so it didn't appear. Oh wait, that's just a bug, because it's not actual Python. So I might have crashed it. Okay, but if I don't add it, then it doesn't appear, which makes sense. That makes sense. If I do make this scale. That makes sense. Nice. And now it might be the case that the opacity stuff does what it was supposed to do. Because now it won't be drawing on top of itself. Ah, no, the opacity didn't work. Darn, I wonder why that is. Wait, why is this still printing draw? Okay, let me see. I wasn't trying to do that. That worked for the stroke opacity. I don't know why the fill... Put this to 1? Still no. Also, this printing draw is annoying me. Why is that happening? Oh, it's right there. How to make traditional animations work. I have some ideas. I don't know if a way to make basically traditional Manum code to be something you can just copy paste. I think it'll always require like some tweaking to make that work. Wait, what in the world? I guess I'm not clearing it in between. But I think that'll always require some tweaking. But I think it is possible to do something where you add animations sequentially. But it'll be kind of annoying. But I have to think about it more. Maybe there's easier ways to do it. Okay, so what's going on with the fill? Why did the fill just stop working? Just make this a pass. Okay, by default, this has no fill. But let me see. Okay, let me see what code I was writing. Is this fill opacity equals 0.5? Okay, so I must be removing it from the scene or something weird. Hmm. Guess I'll try this again. Just comment out the stroke. Okay, now I can see the fill. Now I only see the stroke. Now I only see the stroke. Something about running both of them. Attributes that get an ID. If Modget old mesh, Modget ID, Modget mesh delete, and Modget ID. You know what it probably is? I know what it definitely is. These two have the same ID. Because it's the same object. What would be really nice? Maybe it's possible to have the Python. To have Python objects hold on to a... No, that doesn't really work. To hold on to a mesh. But that actually won't work. This is a super janky way of making an ID, by the way. And this is stroke. I'll just append stroke like this. And here I'll just append fill. And recompile that. Darn, it's still not there. Let me print these object IDs. So the IDs were repeated. That was right. But even now that they're different, I do man and scene.draw. That'll render both of these. It's gonna remove the old one, add the new one. I don't get it. Why? What about running this? Oh, I didn't add the opacity. There. Okay. So one thing I do, when I render, I should clear the scene. The regular scene. Did that just not work? What happened? I'll refresh this. Is fill opacity still binary? I don't think so. I think I figured that out. Okay, so that worked. I set that to 0. Why is it not... Why is it not clearing this? Because when I render, it does scene.children equals 0 equals nothing first. We have to render when the children is empty? Probably not. But I fixed the opacity, yeah. Okay, so here's a circle. If I comment this... Yeah, it's just... Oh, I have to like stop animation frame or something, don't I? Don't I? Cancel animation frame? Request ID. It'd be a lot nicer. Right now, every time you render, it's creating a new animation function. Which is kind of weird. It might make more sense if it was always the same animation function. And you didn't have to like keep canceling it and creating a new one. I guess I can deal with that later. I know there's a better way to do this than request animation frame, but I don't know what it is. Every time I file an issue with these guys, I get annoyed. Set animation loop. Which I also don't know how to use. Yeah. I don't even know if it's documented. Okay, the function will be called every frame. Well, how do you unset the animation loop? Well, since I don't know how to unset animation loop, I think this has to be this can't be like a new function each time. Unmounted, it does this stuff. So when you render, that it creates this function and then calls it. Okay, forget this. I'm gonna try to cancel animation frame for now. I guess this request ID comes from this. It must be. It's just null, I guess. Okay, so then when I call render, cancel animation frame, previous one. Hope that's how you check for null in JavaScript, because I don't know for sure. So the previous one won't be rendering anymore. Then it'll do this stuff. Wait, no, I don't think this works. I don't think that works. I'd have to make this stop calling request animation frame. That's what I'd have to do. But I don't necessarily even want it to stop calling request animation frame. Maybe this should... I hate functional. I guess this isn't functional programming, but this functional programming style. But essentially, when I create a new one, I need some way to make it this one stop calling itself. Some way. Maybe I could... This thing will have to like only request animation frame if like some condition is met, I guess. This is a dumb thing to get stuck on. This is theoretically much easier than all the WebAssembly stuff. It's like an architectural problem. Maybe what I'll do... This is kind of a dumb way to do it. Put this at 0. And then when I do this, I want to like somehow tell this function that when I increment this, stop calling. Like it should only schedule itself the animation index equals itself. So const animate is this function. I don't even know how to make this like have its own closure around animation index. I think I'd have to have like a generator function. Oh my god. This is annoying. Okay, I think I need pretty much no matter what, this needs to be factored out somehow. This needs to be like out here. Then the question is... Well, I guess this isn't so bad. Random scene.draw. Well, there won't be a scene at first. Okay, so let's set up all of that. I'll create an initial manum scene. Call this animate manum scene. And this should actually be like this. So when you start it, it'll create an initial scene and it'll like draw, which shouldn't do anything. Now when you hit render, then what? It'll clear out clear out the scene and then just create a new scene and that's it. Scene and scene. So if it just creates a new scene and that's it, I think that should be enough, maybe? Let's see. Read property value of null. 124. Yeah, that makes sense. This should be on mounted, I guess. So it'll have to be mounted. So that's when the text box will actually be there. And I can do this. Hopefully. I guess this has to be outside. I have no idea if this will work now. Probably not, but let's see. It's still something. Iodide not defined, line 90. This is an on mounted. Okay, this makes sense. Yeah, let's do this after Pyodide loads. Let's not render immediately. Let code, let manum scene. Here's animate manum scene. Once it's mounted, then this will start running. And when you render, you replace the manum scene. Okay. Manum scene not defined, line 86. Oh, so it can't like read this one. Wait, where is this? Oh, this is only after Pyodide's loaded. So I guess I want to do... set this to null. After Pyodide loads, I set it to a scene. Once it's mounted, then I animate it. Draw of null. Okay, so this was called... I say if it equals null, then return. This kind of variable scoping is ridiculous. Okay, so I guess this makes sense. Oh, when I hit render, it doesn't update it. Oh, wait. Add the circle and then pass? Yeah. This is if minimum scene is not null, then it'll draw it and then request itself. But here the scene isn't null anymore. Here it should have been set up. Oh, and I returned before it requested the animation frame. Okay, so let's try this again from the top. I guess that worked. Okay, let's try to do... We change this. I think that worked. Okay, that looks like it's doing what it's supposed to do. Until right there, where it stopped. That's weird. I wonder if this has something to do with, like, rounding when it does the triangulation, which would be really dumb. It happens there too. Or it could be that the map that's holding the objects could get full. Looks like that only happens if you shift it. That seems okay. Okay, let's try to do the stroke opacity. Okay, that fades out, although you can still see the bits of the artifacts around the edges. Okay. I think that's really good. Let me see if the fill opacity is still doing. Shift this. It's like it isn't doing that with the... Oh yeah, it's doing it with the square too. Not sure why it would disappear like that, but okay, I guess. Great. So I guess now what I want to do is try to find a way to make traditional animations work. I guess. And like LaTeX and stuff. I'm sure will be a disaster. Okay, let's get rid of some of this console logging. Oh yeah, and doing this variable scoping better would just be a lot nicer. And there's some repeated code here. Yeah, okay. I wonder if this is better if I use the model matrix, actually. Oh, but I have to import the utils. Here, OpenGL.translation matrix. Nano.utils.opengl. I'll just import that by default. Okay. Man, I wish I had some sort of autocomplete. 0, 0. At this probably shouldn't be draw. This should probably be update or something. Okay. What did I do? Oh. Okay, then I want to set the fill. And see if this blinks out. Okay, the fact that the fill is still here when I do this, but if I shift it, then the fill disappears, means that this is probably a rounding error. This. And then it disappears. But when I do it this way, nothing is ever added to the individual points. So, okay. There's actually a cleaner way of translating things anyway. Okay, so I think the next thing to do would be to get LaTeX working. It'd be get LaTeX working. Make a way for regular quote-unquote animations to work. And then I guess after that, just make the site look good. and have some example scenes, things like that. Yeah. Alright, cool. So I won't raid anyone this time. I'm just going to call it here, I think. Next, I'll probably want to probably work on the tutorial a little bit more, to be honest. Yeah, then prepare to do that. Oh, also, I should, I think if you post a stream link for YouTube on Twitter, it'll expand within the Twitter website. Like, you won't have to go to YouTube to see it. So I should do that with the YouTube version of this stream. Well, if it wasn't like... Oh no, is it broken? It says it isn't online. Okay, I'm gonna check. No, it says I'm online here. Great. Okay, anyway. Yeah, I'll probably do that. Cool. I'll see you guys in the next stream.